Welcome to our program.
Thank you so much.
Now, Anne, being the chair of the Heritage Council, tell us about what is it all about these Heritage Awards?
So the Heritage Awards are made every year across a number of different categories that cover all aspects of heritage in the state. This is the 28th year of the Heritage Awards, and they were initiated to try and encourage interest on the part of the community and owners of heritage places to put them forward, to seek recognition for them, and in that way raise their profile with the public.
On communities and projects, which kind of projects are you looking at specifically?
Well, honestly, it's so varied, but there are a number of categories, so I'll perhaps just quickly talk about some of those. So we recognise individuals who've made a particular contribution, maybe in a town where they've been a historian, or they've conserved a property, or they've really kind of generated interest on the part of their town in their own local heritage, so that's one of them. There's companies who contribute, so they might do things in their town or in their community. They might own a property. We have a category for conservation and adaptive reuse of heritage places.
Why are these Heritage Awards important to the West Australian community?
I think, as I said before, one of the problems is that in Western Australia we don't seem to regard our heritage as heritage. People go to Europe and they see all these fancy old buildings and they think, oh my goodness, that's heritage. In fact, all that we think about heritage on the Heritage Council is that actually heritage is about telling our story as a state. So it's the buildings, the places, the streets, the evidence of our story. So from the early ports that brought people here from overseas, perhaps the gold mining industry being recognised as one of the most important economic drivers in the early part of the settlement of Western Australia. More recently, the iron ore mining industry. A little harder to find representative places that are still there because a lot of the accommodation is temporary, but it's a very important story to the state which needs to be told. And then of course there's the things like the important buildings, particularly in Perth. So there are 1,360 places on the State Register of Heritage Places. And that's it's important that we all remember and think about those as telling our story as a state. But as I said before, it's not about buildings only. So much of the heritage is in the heads of people. It's the stories that they tell and pass on to their families and children and to the rest of the community.
Well, I know someone is watching for the first time, hearing about the Heritage Awards, and they're just wondering how can they enter into the awards?
Well, I mean, there's a number of ways. If they are involved in doing heritage projects, they can enter their own projects. If they're aware of friends or family, community groups or family that are involved in heritage projects. I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, one of the awards went to Gwalia for the the conservation of the Gwalia town site. Now that was done jointly between the local government and some private individuals who had an interest in it. Now Gwalia is a very isolated place and the work involved in doing all of that was intense and difficult, but they had a great result, and that was really a community group becoming aware. We advertise widely to local government, we have it on the website, we use social media to get the message out, and obviously we're now able to do it through your program, so we're very grateful for that.
In your capacity as the chair of the Heritage Council, it seems that most people still haven't understood the importance of their heritage, especially in Western Australia. What would be your message to the Western Australians listening to this program?
Do you know, I think in the last decade, and it's really interesting because in my experience this has happened in a lot of places, it's really been the last decade where suddenly people have started to realise how important it is, and they are having a different attitude. Attitudes have changed. People are more willing to get involved, more willing to put their projects forward, more willing to take on old heritage places to actually do them up.
Before we wind up, any strong message that you want to pass across to the West Australians?
Well, as I said before, probably the most important message is our heritage is important to us. It's important that we look after the things that we think are worth handing on to our children, and the message is to our children to take it forward. So, and it's not just the 1,360 places on the state register. It's much local heritage that's important to individual communities, and we would encourage them to work in their communities to keep that interest in heritage and history alive.
Thank you so much. That was Anne, the chair of the Heritage Council, with a very strong message that we need to carry on with our children or our generation to keep our heritage going. Well, it was nice having you in the program tonight. And
for your interest.
Yes, and looking forward to the celebration of this Heritage Awards.
Thank you so much.